Hello, my name is Tawana Brown, and I serve as the Assistant Director in Parent and Family Programs. Today, we have Dr. Greg Vander Wal from the UA Counseling Center, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about supporting your student wellness plan. Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to really quick get my screen shared and we'll get started. All right, I'm going to talk to you today about just some general mental health and wellness perspectives and resources for your student, and some important things to keep in mind, I think, as we think about mental health and wellness in college. So we're going to cover counseling center services, some things your students can take advantage of if they need them, reasons for coming to our center for services. And then I want to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about the difference between student development and adjustment and mental health concerns and mental illness. I think it's important to differentiate between the two things, especially for our typical aged college students who are going through a lot of changes in their life. So we'll spend a little time talking about that. But first, let me emphasize some services we offer at the Counseling Center. So for our students, we offer individual therapy, group therapy, and crisis intervention services if they are needed. For our individual therapy, we are able to offer those both in person at our center and through telehealth. Usually this is over Zoom and is available for students if that is preferable to them or fits with their presenting concerns. Our general mission at the Counseling Center is just to help our students achieve their academic success and also achieve personal growth through providing quality services to support them. To make initial appointment at our center, the best thing to do is to call. We can't schedule by email, so students need to call. These are also appointments that students have to make on their own. Parents can't make appointments on behalf of their students. Now, parents are certainly welcome to call. We would be happy to talk with you further about services and what would be appropriate, but then it would be up for your student to call and make an appointment. And we do that to encourage autonomy there, and for most of our students, we aren't able to engage in counseling unless they've directly asked for that and want to do that. The two types of appointments that students will most likely encounter when they start at our center are screenings and same-day consult appointments. A screening appointment is just a typical intake for counseling. So if they're interested in counseling services, they would call, schedule a screening appointment. At that appointment, they do all the normal things you usually do at a medical or a counseling appointment. Fill out our consent forms, get some background information submitted, and then they talk with a counselor about their concerns, and we'd work with them to help them get connected to the right resources, whether that's individual counseling, group counseling, or other resources on campus or in the community. We do also offer same-day consult appointments. These are a 25-minute consultation with a therapist. They're done over the phone, and we only schedule these same day. So we work to provide a certain number of these every day just to help some students who may need some more immediate consultation. They have questions, they're in distress, they might be unsure about what services to engage in. Those are all great reasons to take advantage of our same-day consult appointments. Both of these appointments are completely free, and really anytime a student encounters our center, the first contact is there's no charge associated with that. So what happens after a student goes through a screening appointment? They might begin individual therapy, and most likely they'll continue with the therapist that screened them. However, occasionally they may request a certain type of therapist, and if it's appropriate, we can transfer them to that therapist. Some of our students also work with our graduate level trainees or who are working on their degrees and licensure in the helping field. And so those are options available. Sometimes after screening, a student's situation or even their preference may result in them being referred to a therapist within the community. That is another option. We are a short-term treatment center. We do try to be very goal-oriented and focused in our work. Students have the availability of 15 counseling sessions each academic year per their therapist's recommendation. But that does mean for some students who might need longer term regular treatment that they may not be able to fit within our scope. And then we'll help them get connected to resources that can help in that case. And then sometimes after screening, they or their therapist and the student collectively decide that therapy really isn't needed at this time, and either have them come back as needed in the future or decide to terminate therapy at that point in time. So why would a student seek out individual counseling or therapy at our center? I've listed a few good reasons here that encompass a lot of the reasons why students come to our center. Certainly, if a student recognizes that they're experiencing a negative mood for a long period of time, if they're encountering extreme stress or extreme anxiety, that's a great reason to come here. We also work with a lot of students who are just wanting to better understand themselves, better grow in their own identity development, sense of self. That's a great reason to come. And then certainly if you want to process your experiences in a safe and non-judgmental environment, if that's something a student is needing, that's a great reason to come to our center. We work with a vast range of presenting concerns, everything from homesickness and relationship concerns to more significant mental health problems, mental illness, anxiety, depression, things like that. I usually say that if it's getting in the way of your ability to function as a student, then it's a good reason to reach out to the counseling center. Anything that impacts a student's mental health, well-being, or the ability to function. I've listed some of the most common concerns that we tend to see. Anxiety and depression are certainly up there. Also, just general adjustment concerns, adjusting to college, homesickness, adjusting to new situations, new relationships. We do work with a lot of students on relationships with family, friends, professors, general social skills. We can help students with academic concerns or stress management, time management, developmental concerns like understanding self better, understanding their identity, understanding values and goals in life moving forward. We certainly work with students to help build coping skills and resiliency and being able to face difficult times. And then we work with a lot of students who have experienced trauma, who may be struggling with substance use or addiction, may have eating concerns or disordered eating behavior. And those are just the more common concerns. Like I said, if it's anything that impacts your student's ability to function well as a student, then it's a good reason to reach out to the counseling center. I mentioned we also offer group therapy or group support groups at our center. We have a number of different groups for different populations, interest areas, problem areas. Every semester we update our group offerings. Our website, which is counseling.ua.edu, is the best resource to determine what are the current group offerings for students. On that website, you can find a sign-up list so your student can quickly sign up and indicate interest in participating in a support group, and we'll get in touch with them about further details. Some groups that we offer, for example, we offer a creative stress management group. We offer a support group for African American students. We offer a group that's focused on building skills for freshman individuals who identify as female. There's just lots of different options there. So I encourage you to check that out. I encourage you to get your student to check it out as well. And then I also want to mention we offer a lot of consultation services to our campus community, and that includes you as parents and family of students here. You're part of our campus community. And we want you to know that if you ever have concerns about your student and their mental health and well-being, you can always call and speak to one of our therapists. Students can also call and speak to someone over the phone or schedule appointments, but you can as well. And consultation is really appropriate when you're concerned about your student and are unsure how to proceed or unsure how to get them connected to resources that they might need. So I encourage you to use that if you need it. I also do want to mention we have a lot of online resources. Our website, again, counseling.ua.edu, has a lot of self-help information. You can see a few of the topics we talk about listed here, but there's even more on the website. We have free and anonymous mental health screenings available there. So if a student's interested in kind of evaluating their own experiences and seeing if it's consistent with a mental health concern and whether or not counseling could be helpful for that, they can fill out those screenings on our website. We also have access to some self-help apps that students can use for free while they're at Alabama. There's just lots of resources available on the website. I encourage you to check that out. Some frequently asked questions that we encounter at the center, I thought it would be good to run through really quick. One is that are our visits confidential? You know, we're a counseling center associated with the university, but our services are confidential. So a student who's coming to see us here for services, that information is kept confidential within our center, is not shared with anyone else in the university or outside the university without their permission. So just like any other medical entity or counseling entity, we take confidentiality and privacy very seriously. There are certainly exceptions to that, but those exceptions are broad, you know, nationwide exceptions that usually have to do with safety concerns. If students at risk of harming themselves or others, or if there's abusive situations going on of at-risk populations like children, we do need to act in those cases. One thing to note for parents is that if a student does want their parent to have access to their counselor or to talk to their counselor, they do need to sign a release form to authorize that. That's up to the student to provide that authorization. Jumping around a little bit, the cost of our individual counseling services are $15 during the academic year and $25 in the summer if the student is not currently enrolled. That is the only service that we have that we charge a fee for. Everything else is free. We do not take insurance. Most insurances have copays that are higher than our insurance fee. You can file on your insurance, but most students find that that's not really relevant to their experience here. Again, counseling doesn't go on a student record. Nobody at the university has access to whether or not students are seeking services at our center. I mentioned our limit of 15 per year. I do want to emphasize that a majority of the students that come see us get their needs met in 5 sessions or less. And that's really encouraging. We see graduate students as well as undergrad. We also see distance ed students through teletherapy now. And we have a choice between our individual and group sessions, although the majority of the work we do is individual. We do not prescribe medication for mental health concerns at our center, but we can help secure a referral for students who might need medication as part of their treatment regimen. I mentioned we offer crisis intervention services. If a student is experiencing a life or death crisis, they can walk in at our building during operating hours. Those are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. If it's after hours, they can call the University Police Department and ask to speak with our on-call counselor. All they do is call the number listed here and just say, I'm a student and I'm experiencing a crisis and I need to talk with the on-call counselor, and they'll get connected to them. We also partner with the National Crisis Text Line, so students can text BAMA to 741-741 and text with a trained volunteer at any point in time if they're needing to speak with somebody. All right. So I mentioned that the best thing to do for students to get an appointment is to call. Our number is listed here. It's 348-3863, and you can call that during operating hours. And again, the University Police Department would be the place to contact in an emergency after operating hours. We're located in the South Lawn office building. It's on the southeast edge of campus, very close to the DCH hospital system. And it's right next door to East Edge Apartments, the University Police headquarters, and the law school. Students can park at our building, and we have temporary parking passes, and we usually have plenty of parking. And if a student's on campus without a car, they can take the East Edge shuttle bus from our transportation hub, and that will drop them off right in front of our building. That's the best way to get there. All right. So lastly, I wanted to switch gears and talk a little bit about the difference between student development and mental health issues. Um, I want to acknowledge that a majority of the students who are here at the university are at a point in their lives developmentally where they are working through understanding themselves better. They're building a sense of self. They're becoming independent from their family of origin. They're figuring out their values, their identity, their goals, their own coping resources and skills. And this can be challenging and stressful, whether you're in college or not. It's just part of growing at this point in a student's life. Add on top of that, that many are adjusting to just a ton of new things and coming to college. Majority of our students are coming from out of state. That's a big thing. That can be challenging and stressful as well. So distress through these processes and experiences can often mirror the distress related to more significant mental illness. Students can experience feeling sad or depressed, anxious. They can have behavioral issues, changes in drinking patterns or substance use. All of those things can be a result of change and adjustment and development as much as they can be a part of mental illness. And then add on top of that, that our typical age group for college students, 18 to 22, is often when a lot of mental health issues do typically first emerge. And so sometimes it can be challenging to determine, is my student experiencing something that's related to part of their development as a person and adjustment as a person in being in college? Or is this a mental illness? Is this a mental health issue? One thing I really want to emphasize is that both these developmental and adjustment concerns and mental illness are worthy of support and resources. So sometimes we can spend a lot of time trying to figure out why. When the reality is regardless of the why, it's good to reach out for support. So one thing I would just hammer home is if a student is struggling, if they're experiencing something that's getting in the way of them being successful as a person or as a student, reach out for support. We can help sort through the why of what they're experiencing. We don't necessarily have to have that in order to determine whether or not this is sufficient enough of a concern to reach out for help. So some things that might help differentiate these two, just as you're thinking about it, when something's more of an adjustment or development issue versus when it's mental illness, oftentimes it has to do with severity of symptoms and duration of symptoms. If a student is experiencing something related to mental illness, those symptoms tend to be more severe, more long lasting, more consistent. They tend to be less connected to an identifiable problem or stressor. A lot of our adjustment and development issues are connected to a reason, a tangible reason. I'm taking 18 hours and involved in 3 student groups, and I'm stressed and I'm getting anxious about getting all those things done. That's a very tangible connection, a reason for the distress. Sometimes it can be intangible too. I'm really distressed because I picked a major and I don't think I like it, and I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. That's another adjustment and development issue that can cause some distress. But usually the distress can resolves when the issue resolves. That's something that helps us determine that, yes, this is more likely a developmental or an adjustment issue. So if symptoms are more severe, if they're more long lasting, if they don't fluctuate with current stressors or developmental issues, that might indicate that the student is experiencing something more significant, something maybe diagnosable in terms of mental illness. One thing I want to emphasize here too is that only professionals can diagnose, and we have more and more now with access to the internet and things like that. We have a very heavy self-diagnosis culture. We work with a lot of students who come in who feel like they've already figured out the why of what they're experiencing, and sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they're very much not accurate. I think it's helpful to encourage in your students to focus on functioning, focus on what symptoms they're having and how we can get relief. Sometimes we get so caught up in, is this a problem with a name? Is this a diagnosis? That it can actually exacerbate problems. So that's just a few words I wanted to say about student development and mental health concerns. And just again, to emphasize that students may struggle. at points during college. It doesn't mean it's a mental illness that they're experiencing with, but regardless of the reason, it can be useful to reach out for help and support. And we encourage you to encourage and support your students in that. I want to highlight some other campus resources here at the end. I've mentioned our counseling center. We also have student care and well-being on campus. This is a department that is focused on providing support to students who may be experiencing distress or really anything that's interfering with their ability to be a student here. There's a lot of great resources that they offer. They have a student of concern report. You can reach out to them and report concerns about students as well. Our Women and Gender Resource Center offers client services as well for students who may have had experiences with sexual assault or interpartner violence or some type of abuse. Our Title IX office is available for supporting students who may have had experiences like that on campus. And then, oh, I've got student care and well-being on there twice. That's how important I think they are. But these are some great resources, and encourage your student to take advantage of them if they need them. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the fact that you all have checked in on this webinar today. If we could be of any more help, please do reach out and call our center. I'm happy to talk further. I'll turn it back over to Tawana.
All right, thank you so much, Greg, for sharing that information with our parents and family members. The Counseling Center is an important resource, and we definitely encourage you to encourage your student to use that resource. Or if you are concerned about your student, make sure you reach out to Student Care and Wellbeing to do a report or reach out to the Counseling Center. We would also like for you to attend our webinar Wednesday next week as well. And so we'll be talking about student wellness in this series. And so we'll have different campus partners reaching out and talking about their functional areas. And so again, thank you for attending, and roll Tide.